Good morning, welcome to the final day of the BMW IBSF 2017 World Championships. We're in Königssee, Bavaria, another cold, crisp morning as we get ready for the start of the action. And today, it is time for the men's skeleton. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me is Olympic champion from 2010, Amy Williams. And on this cold, crisp track, our leader after the first heat, Martin Stuckers, has just one worry, and that is the track itself. Amy, his rivals are just chasing in his wake.
They are. I mean, yeah, this is a phenomenal track that you love or hate. You can get the speed massively from having a perfect straight, a perfect Kreisel, the 360, and carrying that speed all the way down. And that's what the Germans know how to do, and Martins knows how to do. This was the young Russian who came on through, probably surprising everyone by beating his older teammate Tretyakov. But wow, he was flying. And then Martin Stuckers here, who is absolutely phenomenal. No one can get close to him in his start time. He carries speed all the way from top to bottom with the most perfect lines you can ever see. Hard to fault that man.
Well, a couple of years ago in the World Cup race, he was leading by a country mile, crashed out below the Kreisel, finished on his back, still came across the line in sixth position. It's hard to imagine that that might happen now, but it was hard to imagine that it might happen then. Evil Michael Schumacher occasionally crashed his car. Martin Stuckers leads by 3/4 of a second from Nikita Chegibov and Axel Jung. And to all intents and purposes, it is his championship already. The others are just scrabbling over the minor places. For everybody else, though, very, very tight field. Just 100th of a second covering as many as 4 sleds in spots. And outside the top 20, currently held 20th place by our Chinese representative, there will be 2 or 3 athletes trying desperately to make it into the final heat, where we cut the 44 sled field down to the fastest 20. So we send more than half the athletes back to the changing room after this first 90 minutes of action this morning. Well, we always say we've got a massive field from a whole host of nations, but this year we've got even more joining in than ever before. 29 different nations among our 44 athletes, and that's the one man that everybody looks to. And Amy, when there is a benchmark in the sport, it's all about getting close to him, never mind beating him.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing really with him, because he has got such a phenomenal start. In the summer, these athletes are training full time to be as fast as they can. So lots of weight training, sprinting, powerful speed. And then obviously all throughout the winter, you're trying to get as much ice time to just perfect your skills. But knowledge is key, and being technical and having those years behind you is what wins races as well.
So here's our start list. We go from the leader all the way down to 44th place, fast to last, and then we reset the field. Fastest 20 after this heat go into heat 4, the final of the World Championships, to decide the medals. Martin Stuckers, the red vest means that he is our world champion. He leads overnight by 3/4 of a second. Gets the final day of action underway in the men's skeleton World Championships.
Yeah, great start from him there. You can just see how beautiful the ice is today. It's minus 0.5 with the air at 2 degrees, so everyone's taking the temperature. And look at him coming through those S-bends, coming down the straights, just taking the little tap where you need to, and then bulleting his way through, barely using his feet to steer. That's the Kreisel. You want a really clean exit here. Just clips it, but then he's getting through without any other problems. Carrying the speed into these bottom corners. 115.7, so that's incredibly fast.
72 miles an hour head first and accelerating up towards the line. A 50.60 slide, 0.6 of a second away from a track record that was set last weekend in the team competition. But that should be enough. That's 0.3 quicker than even he managed to go in Friday's race. So it looks like the track is in electrifying shape this morning.
Yeah, they would have done a lot of prep to it last night after the bobsleighs. You can see him there, the most perfect form, shoulders are down, just clipped it there, but he doesn't have to fight. He is allowing that sled just to slide. The more you fight and steer, the more you're slowing the sled down.
Well, that exit to the Kreisel has caught him out more than once in his career. Didn't do anything to him today. So that sets the benchmark then for everybody else. Can Nikita Tregibov stay within a second of the leader? This is a man who finished in 6th place in the Winter Games 3 years ago in Sochi, his home track. 21 years old still. He's a triple junior world champion and an electrifying powerhouse at the start. He starts quite short, drops away fast, so it might not give him all of the benefit of those superhuman sprinting legs, but he's got to try and hang on to this silver medal at least.
Yeah, 4:66, that matches one of his speeds yesterday. The start is very short here, so you have only got a little tiny bit before you actually have to get on the sled as fast as possible, get into your position and stay calm, take a deep breath and get right into those S-bends. He's also almost copying the exact lines of Durkes, who was before him.
Well, you need two things when you're a slider, the video of your slide and the video of Martin Stukur's, and then you can compare and contrast, right?
Yeah, if you look there, he actually had a better exit out of Kreisel, whether that's because his speed was a little bit lower going in. But this is like a big race here between the two Russians. Is he, the young lad coming through, going to take top spot of Russian slider?
Closes on Dukurs. He was 7,600s behind. He's now 5,700s behind. Martin Dukurs has said that he will test equipment at every race all year long, with next year's Olympic Games in his sights. Now, has he set his runners and his sled for what conditions they expect a little later in the day for the final run? Or is he just testing something different? Tregibov gets closer, and there's the red vest of Dukurs.
Yeah, he's actually just got down 1,800s quicker than Durkes, so that was a phenomenal slide by the Russian there. You can see the Dartfish program overlaying the athletes there. Very similar lines, but he did have a better exit of Kreisel.
Axel Juncker, Germany, lying in the bronze medal position overnight, was livid with himself after his first heat, a little less cross after the second. He was only a 10th behind Nikita Tregibov, 4th fastest starter, although he tied Tregibov's speed in the third heat, in the second heat rather. So let's see if he can move closer to the leader as well.
Yes, he's only 400s in front of Tretiakov, so it's a very, very close between 3rd and 4th place from yesterday's standings. Really beautiful line. So these Germans know exactly where to get the speed from all these this track. We saw that in the girls' race. We've seen it in the first lot of the bobsleigh.
Oh, long skids. And again, he's throwing the leg out to try and correct the slide down that straight. 111.8, 69.5, highest speed we've seen into the Kreisel, keeps it alive down through the labyrinth.
Yeah, beautiful line coming out there. Is he steering too much? You can oversteer, but this German knows the track so well.
Got to avoid the walls. This is uphill and quite steeply uphill now to the finish line, and across the line in a 50.50. He too takes a 10th of a second out to Dukurs, but he loses 900s in the battle for silver to Nikita Tregibov. So the first man down did not get the best run so far. Second and third guys out the shed have gone quicker.
Yeah, which is surprising, really, because we never see that from Durkes. But, you know, these are guys who really want to move up spaces. So there he is, coming out of the S-bends. Combination of 4 corners, S1 to S4, each looping into each other. Now, he just clips that as much as he can, but he has to fight a tiny little skid there. However, straight in position.
So Axel Jung, 3rd overnight, moves closer to the race leader. Martin Stukur still over half a second ahead. Jung 3/4 back. But the danger perhaps for Axel Jung is this man, the Olympic champion. Alexander Tretikov, owner of the fastest start on the planet, was just 400ths of a second behind after 2 heats. Can he move into the medals? Wow, 4:56, quicker than even he went yesterday. The track start record, 4:53, that he himself holds.
Yeah, he is definitely dubbed the Russian Rocket. We all know how phenomenal he is on that start. Very tall guy, long legs.
Set the start record in the race here in January, which he won. Gaps coming down to Ducours as well.
Yeah, he's controlling those pressures there. That big 360 Kreisel has got 3 oscillations, so those athletes are having to steer those at exactly the right moment.
Even quicker into the Kreisel. He was 9/10 behind. He's now 8/10 behind. He could move up into the medals. He's ahead of Axel Jung on the split times and at the line. He is in the medal position. 500s in front of the German. Each slider now seems to be going quicker. That's a 50.41, exactly to the 100, the same as teammate Nikita Tregibov.
Yeah, phenomenal, hey, really. These two Russians are really having a race amongst themselves. And maybe we're going to see a little change in those top 3 positions. Interestingly,
he started a 10th quicker than Tregibov, but couldn't find even 100th more down the track. Out of the labyrinth. That's part of the reason why he came out there with a bit of a slide, had to take a big steer with the legs.
A little bit of a slide. I mean, there's a very strange camber there. You can see it's trying to be a straight, but it isn't. And those athletes have to work their way through the camber, left and right, getting into that next corner.
Well, changes at the top of the field. Is this man going to wreak some havoc as well? Alexander Gassner returned to top flight racing for Germany this season after 3 years away on the lower tiers. Found his mojo, found his fitness. Set a track record last Saturday evening. 3rd in the first heat, slipped to 5th overnight. He needs track record speed again. 4:75 getaway, a fraction slower than his first heat.
Yeah, this lad is only 28 years old. He's from Winterberg, so another track in Germany. He actually was 3rd here a few weeks ago, so he has medalled on here. He is experienced, has had a lot of runs down.
Born in Romania, family came to Germany when he was a youngster. 1:10.8, very good speed. Not quite as quick as we saw from Tretiakov.
Beautiful of exit Kreisel there, nowhere near that right-hand wall. So hopefully it wasn't because he steered too much, and I doubt that because of knowing this track so well, but then he didn't have the right angle there, so maybe it's a little bit scruffy.
Yeah, he's going to lose time. He's 1.15 behind. He's close from 1.3 behind, below the Kreisel, but a 50.78, 1,800 slower than Martin Stucours, so the gap to the leader goes out, and he makes no inroads on the podium. He's got 1 shot left, but the gap to a medal now is 4/10 for him.
So there they are, both coming out of S4. So you've got your leader there, Ducours, against our German athlete. And you can just see the German having to actually fight a little skid there using his foot, whereas Ducours is a lot stiller on the sled.
He beat Tretiakov in a 1-heat shootout in the team competition last week. Ducours leads from Tretiakov, Tregibov in 2nd place, Tretiakov in 3rd. And now here's our 3rd German, Christopher Groothaer, claimed his first World Cup win earlier in the season. That was at Altenburg, a really demanding driving track. And Christopher Groothaer in the top half dozen. Matt Antoine of the USA, his closest rival, but he's got about half a second in hand over the American.
Loading onto that sled really quickly there, lowering down. Your shoulders are low, your feet together, and your head is all the way down near that ice. Perfect line there, coming out of the first corner into the S-bends.
Little skid again as he comes out just a little early from the S's onto the straight.
Just watching that dog there, watching them come round the corners.
Hopefully it won't get in the track. 1.75 behind. Heat 2 is losing ground. Now, the way this format works, where the fastest goes first, you tend to see the field spread out, and that's what's happening with Groothaer. He's dropping away from teammate Alexander Gassner in 5th position. So he's now gone half a second behind Gassner, a 50.83. And we would expect to see each slider now, who's further and further away from the leader, going slower than the times we've seen. The changes really we expected to come among Chechikov, Chegibov, and that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually a very, very good run from the German there. He had a really brilliant section in the bottom half from Kreisel. See there, he's fighting a little bit of a skid, but not hitting. So sometimes actually it's better to take a bit of a hit and not skid than to fight a skid. Skidding is like putting brakes on. The runners are obviously moving sideways across the ice. The runners are a little bit like the tyres on a car, the equivalent.
Matt Antoine of the USA, 1.8 seconds off the lead. Now, when you consider that the leader was 3/4 of a second ahead of second overnight, Martin Stukus, as ever, opening up artificially vast gaps. But Antoine was just over 4,500s behind Christopher Grohair in the first heat. If he can eat into that at all, he will get closer to the top half dozen. Long-range athlete, originally from Wisconsin, now lives in Phoenix, Arizona. And a 4:82 getaway, and that's not quite as quick as he managed yesterday. We have seen a number of our fast starters match their first start.
Yeah, at the start of the World Cup season in Whistler, he was on the podium with a bronze, and then Lake Placid a silver. So he, has done very well, obviously, on the North American tracks, coming across into Europe. He is one of the most experienced sliders out there. He's been sliding for a long time. Coming out of Kreisel there, straight down that camber.
That is as good a line as you can get through there, just trickling through the bottom of those berms. 1:15.7, 71 miles an hour. Well, where's the speed gone? The fastest we're doing 73.5 there. And Matt Antoine, a 51.07, loses more ground. Well, still quicker than anything he produced yesterday by 0.7 of a second over his first heat, and nearly 2 seconds, nearly 1 second quicker than his second, but still losing ground to the top half dozen.
Yeah, he just drops out of that S-bend a little bit, so takes that knock on both the corners of the bend and has to fight. So he would have lost a bit of speed there. He does get it under control. But yes, I mean, the track does seem to be a little bit quicker. Everyone's coming down in quicker times than they did on their first day of racing.
Yeah, it's very cold, very frosty. And the men were on track later in the day in the first heat. The first 2 heats, the women were early on Friday morning. Now here is Thomas Ducours. The question mark surrounding his disqualification from the last race. Nobody has made any official statement. Last World Cup race in Eagles, he finished in the top half dozen, and we just had a revised result list where it just said DSQ for Thomas Ducours. So not quite sure what was going on there. Maybe something that the Ducours brothers were testing with their runners. Wasn't quite the way that the officials would have liked it, but nevertheless.
Bit of a big hit there coming out of the S-bends. Yeah, I mean, the season before an Olympics, you are trying out different things with equipment, with runners. You're trying different setups on your sled. You might be sacrificing some races, but when you come to a World Champs, you still want to really perform. And he took a massive hit there, getting the angles completely wrong. That is going to bleed time now in the bottom half of this track.
2.5 seconds behind his brother, 2.8 seconds behind his brother. The gap from first to eighth could be 3 seconds. It is 3.1, a 51.79 slide. Well, actually, that was just quicker than anything he produced on the first day of sliding on Friday. However, everybody else has gone one heck of a lot faster.
Yeah, I mean, he had a messy exit from S4 there, clipping on both sides of the wall, which you don't want to be doing, and that just set him all up wrong. So there he is, coming out of the Kreisel. And he just almost is angled completely there to the right, which means he clips the wall, gets pushed up, and pretty much is very hard to control it, his whole body lifting off the sled. You are going so fast, and your reactions up to a point, sometimes you cannot control that sled in the right amount of time.
It's such a short distance, less than 100 metres. At 75 miles an hour, you're either right or you're wrong, and you can't get it back. Tom Parsons of Great Britain now. The door might be open to try and overhaul Thomas Ducours. He was only 200s behind the Latvian. Tom in his great-looking new helmet design for the World Championships. Well, Duco started 4.79. Dom will give away around 700-800s at the start to him. No, 4.79. That's comfortably quicker than anything he produced yesterday. So if he can get a good exit out of the Kreisel, he could easily move up a spot.
Yeah, this is Dom's fourth World Championships. He's 10th in the World Cup rankings, which I think he would be expected to be a little bit higher. He's one of our most experienced sliders, but he's looking very comfortable on the sled here.
111.1, decent speed, 69.6, but big height in the Kreisel, needs to get the line right, not bad at all.
Yeah, a lot of height there, so I think he had to work quite hard coming out.
Well, he's ahead of Thomas Ducours. He was almost from the moment he laid down. This is a nice-looking run from Dom Parsons. Moves him up into 8th position. How close will he get to Matt Antoine of the USA? The answer is 1600s behind 7th. Really good moving up from Dom Parsons. Caleb Smith on the left, Eric Benotis on the right. Happy with that. And Dom should be as well. 51.15. Thomas Ducours just came down 51.79.
Yeah, look how high up there he's gone up the finish. The British lot don't seem to slow themselves down there. Here's Dom on the start, really powering away, keeping low, loading on as fast as he can, shoulders as low as possible. I mean, Dom is wanting a comfortable top 10 finish. You know, ideally he'd be wanting to move closer to that top 6 place, with Lizzie winning the medal yesterday, bronze medal. The boys really are looking to do exactly the same.
Well, 8/10 out of a top 10, but he's a few hundreds away from 7th place as he moves up. Dave Kreshcheshin of Canada, a man from London, Ontario, a teacher, former rugby player, 14th in last year's World, in 10th place overnight on Friday night. He's had a day and a half to mull over what he's going to do in this first run on Sunday morning. What is he doing? A 4.80. Very good getaway from him. He's a long, tall athlete, not quite the tallest anymore. Riek Graf now is of Switzerland, but as a rugby player carries a lot of mass. And Amy, that's important to build the speed down the straight.
Yeah, for him, he's actually got a new sled, so he's actually been trying this out, which, you know, it takes a long time to get used to sleds sometimes, trying to figure out how they work underneath you. You can see he's just fighting a little bit there.
Yeah. Wonder if he's gone a little aggressive on the runner set up for the cold ice this morning. He's still having a good run in 10th place. Is he getting closer to Thomas Ducours? Can he overhaul the Latvian to the line? He had a bit of a skid in the Kreisel, a bit of a skid in the Labyrinth. 51.50, that's not a bad slide. That was 2900s quicker than Thomas Ducours we saw a couple of sleds ago. And that might be enough to hold off Mattia Gaspari, the Italian, who was 11th and was 1400s behind him after the first heat. And if Grizz can get a top 10 finish, he will be very pleased. Look at that big smile on his face, but...
Yeah, there's the difference coming out of S4. He's having to fight a little bit compared with Ducours, who was our race leader, and he's having to push against the wall. So he's just sort of slipping and sliding across, whether he hasn't got his runners set up very well or the fact that it is a new sled and he's still figuring it out.
Fastest 10 of the field have gone down. We have 34 more athletes in the 3rd round of the Men's Skeleton World Championships. Italy's Mattia Gaspari, 11th after the first day of competition. Mattia, one of the junior sliders in the field in terms of age, and didn't do any time at all on ice. Most athletes start around October with pre-season training. He was getting ready to join the Italian police, doing his examinations and his induction. So his first day on ice was the first day of training in Altenburg in January. So half a season under his belt this year. But actually, he's had a really good series of races.
Yeah, you can see at the start there, the sled slots into some grooves that are already pre-cut out to help you push. And then obviously they run out, so you're having to load on before they run out and your sled slips out of you. So in the Kreisel here, he's got a lot lower oscillation, so he's not reaching that roof quite as much, not as much loops.
Well, he's trying to close on Dave Kreshcheshin of Canada. There was 1400s of a second between them, which we make sound like a lifetime. But he is now on the split times ahead of the Canadian. He's going to move up. He is in 10th place. And he's only 800s behind Thomas Ducours. Now, don't expect Ducours to have another really wild, random run like he did in the first heat this morning, but all things are possible. So a 51.21, that was an excellent slide from Mattia Gaspar. He ought to have half the season off every year, because he's come so fresh and so up for this.
Yeah, it's trying to find the balance that you're always trying to get as much ice time as possible, especially when you're a nation who doesn't have their own track. However, obviously it's a very long season and people are away from home for a long, long time, and then you can get absolutely exhausted.
And the irony, of course, is that Italy used to have 2 tracks, neither of which is currently in operation. Matthias Guggenberger of Austria, 14th fastest start in the first heat, 6th quickest in the second heat. He was 18th and then 10th fastest. So again, it's that first run that's really torpedoed his challenge for the top 10, but can he get any closer?
Yeah, he improved quite a lot throughout the competition so far. Every run he's put down, he has actually got a lot quicker.
Didn't compete in the men's Skeleton Worlds last year on his home track in Innsbruck. He was taken ill after the team race. It turned out not to be a major issue, just a viral thing, but for a little while there, it was quite worrying.
Yeah, having good results in these World Championships is so important to so many of these athletes. They're all fighting to get funding from their personal federations or sponsorship, and so a lot of them are really wanting set results to be able to get that funding to be able to support them throughout the summer months.
114 kilometers an hour for Guggenberger, 70.8 miles an hour. Fastest sled there was 73.4. And that was Nikita Chegibov. There's coach Mickey Grumberger. We see that Guggenberger's got his hands down to slow himself down. The Brits just allow the sled to go all the way up the outrun and slow down. I remember getting to Altenburg a few years ago, talking to Emma Lincoln-Smith. She'd broken a wrist putting her hands down in front of her because some of the loose lumps of ice freeze hard overnight, and so it can be risky.
Yeah, I personally don't do that myself. No. Use your toes a little bit, but yeah, naturally let the sled come to a stop.
Well, Guggy in 12th place, as he was after the first day of competition. And behind Guggenberger, we start to get into a really tough little group. 0.05 of a second behind the Austrian was another man in red and white, Barrett Martineau, former ski jumper. In fact, he was one of the pre-jumpers to the Olympic competition in 2012 on the hills of Vancouver. He's now a ski jump coach in the summer, which involves watching kids come off ramps and into swimming pools, I gather. 16th place in the second run, dropped him from the top 12 down to 13th. Now he can turn that around. He's very close indeed to Guggenberger and Gaspari. 4.79 getaway. Well, he had a 78 and a 76 in the first 2 starts.
Yeah, he actually came 13th here in the World Cup race a few weeks ago, so he's going to want to better his World Cup race, step it up for World Champs, but it's very high there out of exit 4, which means the pressure leaves you when the sled drops off the corner.
110.1, 68.4 miles an hour. We're going to see the speeds for all these sleds dropping a little compared to the fastest, Nikita Chegibov. But where is he on the split times? He's already overhauled Matthias Guggenberger for 12th. How close will he get to teammate Dave Kresh-Cheshin? Chris is 3.33 behind, and at the line, Barrett Martineau 3.56. A quarter of a second between the 2 Canadians. Iva Parkan's their coach. 51.37 slide for Barrett Martineau, with a bear on his helmet, as Grizz does. Barrett's nickname, Bear. Good exit from the S4.
S4, where he just dropped off and hit that inside wall, which just means you're having to fight that little bit more to get your perfect line.
So far, 13 sleds down. Slowest of them all has been Thomas Ducours, 51.7. He's a quarter second slower than anyone has been so far. He is going to really struggle to maintain his position in the top 10 if he has another loose run like that. Now then, Nathan Crumpton, second World Championships for the former triple jumper from Princeton University. 13th fastest first heat, but again in a second, like Barrett Martineau we've just seen, he too lost a bit of ground.
You can see him there holding onto the saddle of the sled. And the saddle sort of holds you onto the sled. They're personal to every single athlete with the profile of your body. And then how you hold on to the sled is quite unique. Some people have their hands tucked underneath them or to the side of them. It's a very unique piece of equipment, personalised to you.
Well, Crumpton just a few hundreds behind Barrett Martineau. So all these guys in a really tough battle. The first to blink's going to lose. Down the straightaway, and Amy, this is one of the toughest bits of track anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's a straight, and yet we can quite clearly see it is, nothing like a straight, and you'll have to fight your way through it, but actually remaining calm and not fighting. You're really trying to be at one with the sleds, but getting those perfect steers. These athletes are steering with their heads, their shoulders, their knees, their toes. But at the same time, it's that real fine balance, not wanting to oversteer. He comes over in 51.75, which puts him into 13th. No, not 13th place.
No, stays in 14th, unfortunately. He had a chance to try and close on Barrett Martineau. It didn't happen for Nathan Crumpton. 4.78 start, but a 51.75. Only Thomas Ducours with the 51.79 has gone slower this morning, so Crumpton slips a little. And that's bad news for him because he was only 1/100th of a second ahead of his closest rival, who comes next. Big skid here. See his legs going high in the Kreisel.
Yeah, just coming out at the wrong angle there, but he's having to fight. But at the same time, he doesn't hit any walls. He's using his head to pull himself across.
To work hard to rescue that, though, out of the Kreisel. Leaves him vulnerable to this young man, Pavel Kulikov from St. Petersburg in Russia. Second World Championships from him. He was 12th in Innsbruck last year. Still just 24 years old. Mum Ella and father Nikolai have been on tour with him all year. Nikolai's still here, Ella back home. This is his third World Championships. He came to Winterberg 2 years ago as well. 4.75, sixth fastest start, and that puts him already ahead of Nathan Crumpton as he lies down.
Yeah, all these Russian lads have very, very fast starts, train very hard throughout the summer. He's got a good position on the sled, just having to fight across there, but otherwise that's a very good clean line coming on down.
Well, he's been adding to his knowledge backs this year, racing on the North America's Cup, the Intercontinental Cup as well, trying to try out new tracks in North America.
Just taking that bit of a hit coming out of Kreisel, fighting his way through. He's just got to keep it together now. Having
an exceptional run. He started 15th. He's up to 12th position on the splits. Really moving up fast. This is the big mover of the day so far. Kulikov, 11th fastest run. Squeezes up to 14th, but below the Kreisel, he had got himself up to 12th place on the split times. So he moves ahead of Nathan Crumpton. A 51.40 slide. It came away a little bit for him below the Kreisel, but he looks happy. There's his dad, Nikolai. High five, whatever that is in Russian. He's only 500s behind Guggenberger for 13th.
So yeah, he just drops there and takes that hit. So he knows he can improve on that. Controls it really well because he had a great line through that bottom half of that labyrinth.
Yeah, so he's moved up one, could move up at least another one in the next heat. Martis Ducours of Latvia, the runaway leader, but Russians 2 and 3 are still threatening. 15 of 44 sleds down, and in 16th position after the first day of competition, Ander Mirambel, his father and uncle here with him, helping out this weekend. And one of the athletes coached with Martin Rettel's team has made such a difference to the way that a bunch of them sliding, and Ander Mirambel having comfortably the best season of his life. Last year, 27th in the World Championships, his best ever World Championships, 25th at Lake Placid, and he was in 16th place, 15th place, tied with Kulikov overnight.
Yes, he's got quite a lot of years of experience now under his belt, but it's never quite clicked for him. He hasn't had the same amount of coaching. We adopted him for several years as a Team G&B. They're good exit out of Kreisel, but having to work quite hard. I think he's got his family here this week as well, so he's going to be wanting to put down a really good result for them.
Well, tied in a three-way tie for 14th position, but he's dropping behind Pavel Kulikov and 0.3 of a second shy, so 52.04. Still 10 spots better than he's produced in any World Championship. So Ander Mirambel has got one more run. Chances are he was jubilant after his first 2 runs yesterday. They really went well. Not quite so happy with that. Chances very strong that he'll make the 4th and final heat.
He just managed to not really hit it, just skimming around. Yeah, actually not bad there.
Well, not the best Kreisel exit, but he will tidy that up for the 4th and final run. He wanted to move up. He's in a 3-way tie. You don't want to lose. And he's in a tie, not just with Pavel Kulivkov, but with this man, Rhys Thornberry, born in Perth, Western Australia. Works for the RAF at Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire. 2nd full season on ice. He's only done the odd race in the 2 years before that. And another man coached by Martin Rettel. So he and Ander Mirambel have spent all season long in the same debriefs, working with each other. Now they're tied after 1 day of competition. Yeah,
such closer competition here, and you can win and lose within hundredths of a second.
484 getaway, so he was 900ths quicker than Ander Mirambel in the start, and he moves up ahead of his, quote, teammate.
You can see that he's chosen to put a black visor on. On the helmets, you can go for like a clear, an orangey colour or a black, depending on what the daylight is, the conditions. Sometimes it helps you actually define the corners and the ice a little bit more. So as you can imagine, when you're going down that fast, all you see pretty much is whiteness, and you can want to define what the ice looks like in that little quick moment.
Well, his best World Championship results, 14th in Innsbruck last year. That is the 7th fastest run. What a great drive from Rhys Thornberry. From a 3-way tie for 15th, he moves up to 11th place, a 10th out of a top 10 finish for New Zealand. Ben Sanford, Bruce Sanford both claimed World Championship medals for New Zealand in the last 2 decades. And the Kiwi, look at that, there's some family and friends. His mum, his girlfriend Amy came to the races a little earlier in the season.
Yeah, that's a great run from him moving on up the field.
And nearly missed the sled. That was the worst load I think I've seen all year.
Yeah, he had to put his hand down. There have been times when people haven't made it onto their sleds.
Yeah.
You're trying to push the fastest you can, and sometimes you just take that one step too far and the sled gets away from you, and all of a sudden you have to get on as fast as you can.
Next up, a World Championship rookie. He's only ever started 1 World Cup race. That was at this track after last year's World Championships. Jerry Rice. 4 years ago, he was with Mark Wood, the development coach of British Skeleton, having his first days on ice. And here he is in the World Championships, 18th overnight.
Yes, I was there on that very first day, helping him push off the track. And he's done so well, and I think this is a massive learning experience. He's never raced over 2 days, putting those 4 runs together, the extra nerves and everything, but yeah, he's still going to want to put down a good performance. That was a really good line out of S-Ben there, and a perfect straight into Kreisel.
Now he is already ahead of Ander Mirambel of Spain on the split, so he wanted to move up, and a good line out to the Kreisel will help him. Gets a little rub, as Mirambel did, but still ahead of the Spanish driver on split times.
Yes, having a good solid run here. I think for him, he just needs to stay relaxed. His head is quite high there coming out. He's having to have a good little look around, which is quite a normal thing for a novice to do. He's definitely going to want to just keep that form a little bit better, but I think at the moment he'll be happy with that. He's moved on up.
51.91, he moves up a spot, and that's always what you're looking for on this 3rd heat. So good slide from him. And as you say, head up a bit, but I think this is only his 3rd race weekend on this track.
That's his little fan club. He's got his girlfriend there and his mates from home. See there, you can just see his head really lifting up. He takes the knock, but you've got to keep those shoulders down, the head down. The aerodynamics in this sport is so important. But he is a rookie, he is a beginner, and he's got a lot to learn and a lot of potential, I think, in front of him.
Rice Pudding Club over the far side cheering him on. 22nd of our starters in the 1st heat was John Daly of the USA. Walked away from the sport after skating out of a chance for a medal in Sochi 2014. And 2 years on, 3 years on now, decided to come back to the US team trials. He's crammed in races while working full-time in the US and now in the World Championships. 4:82, not the start that he will hopefully be producing next year.
No, I think for him to come back is brilliant. I'm right behind him. He's got undone business, but he has had those years off the ice, and you've got to get yourself back into sliding, back into the rhythm of it.
He did 7 races in January in North America while still working 3 days a week. Now that is a lot of slides. A little late out of the Kreisel as he has been all week, but he has moved up ahead of Ander Mirambel. Mirambel getting pushed to the bottom of the top 20 with that loose run. So John Daly up to 18th. How close will he be to Jerry Rice? The answer is 300s behind. A really good battle on there for the final run. Jerry Rice versus John Daly. First World Championships versus, what, 6th, 7th Worlds for John Daly. So will the experience tell? It's a decent slide.
Yeah, John's going to be wanting to, in the next year, slowly creep on up with every single race. He just was a bit too high coming out of the Kreisel there, taking that hit. But he still controls it really well there.
Well, still a lot to think about for John Daly, but we've got a year to go till the Games. And then after that, 5 years to go until the Winter Games in Beijing in China, which brings us very neatly to Wen Jianzheng from China. This 6'4" rookie. We've never seen him side at the senior level. He's done 4 races in North America. The coach, Willi Schneider, who builds the sleds, moved over from the Russian team after last year. Jeff Payne of Canada heading up the Canadian skeleton program. And Schneider has been so instrumental in bringing the Russians on, now going to do the same for the Chinese. And for this kid who's never been to Königssee before to race, to be in the top 20, a remarkable performance.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. He looks really good on the sled. He's very low, he's very tall, but look how low he keeps that head all the way down, almost touching the ice. I mean, having never been on this track before, you've only got 6 runs to learn this track over 3 days, so it's a lot to ask for.
If he could finish in the top 20, that really would be a remarkable testimony to A, their athlete selection, and B, the way this guy can soak it up like a sponge. It looks like he's been doing this for years.
He does look very comfortable on the sled. He's got some very good lines here. I mean, averagely, his speeds are a lot lower. Coming down to 51.65, though. He's moved up places.
15th fastest heat. He stays in 20th at the moment, but only 900s behind Ander Mirambel.
I think if he continues to improve at the rate that he is now, we could be, you know, watching a real future talent here.
Well, by the end of next year, with this rate of improvement from nothing to top 20 in the world, he could be knocking on the door of the top 10 easily.
Yeah, let's keep our eyes on him. I mean, he looks really good on the sled. He's obviously having to fight a little bit there with his feet.
Just came down 1,200, about 800s quicker than John Daly in his first year of sliding. 20 sleds are down, the field is full. The good news is there are only 24 more trying to make their way in, so somebody is going to be left unhappy. Quite a few somebodies. The question is, who just outside the 20 will get in? They always say that 4th is the worst place in the podium. Well, 21st might be the worst place to be overnight. You're not in the race. You've got to fight your way in, and that's the mountain now that faces Jack Thomas. Chen Guang of China is in 20th place, and Jack was 1100s behind him. So he's got to have a really good top 12 slide now to get into the final heat.
Yeah, he's another rookie for Great Britain, having started at exactly the same time as Jerry. He's looking very cool, calm, collected on the sled here with some really good lines. So he's got to just mentally keep it together. And I think this is the thing, it's a mental game as much as a physical game.
Little rub on the exit of the Kreisel. Where is he on the splits? He has now eased himself into 20th, but he's got to avoid the walls. Can't touch anything. He is in the race at the moment. 1 corner to go. At the line, he is in, and Zheng of China is out. So happiness for Eric Benotis on the right and Caleb Smith on the left. Jack T-Tray Thomas is in at the moment. And there is just maybe one slender hope for Kevin Boyer to get in front. But Jack is in, and that's what he heard from Jen, and that's why he now looks happy.
Yeah, I'm very relieved there. I was holding my breath because you know how much he wants to be in that top 20. He wants another run. You want another run to keep improving. Sometimes you're still working out steers on these runs. But this is his first World Champs, and to get a top 20, you know, I think he can pat himself on the back. Let's hope he can stay there.
Well, both British rookies are in the top 20. What about Kevin Boyer, Canada's rookie, the man from Edmonton, Alberta. First season on the World Cup trail this year. And Boyer, 23 years old, World Cup rookie. Went to driving school with Barrett Martineau, his Canadian teammate. Now, can he fight his way into the top 20? He was 1400s behind Jack Thomas, so again, he has to go even quicker. 475 start was 600s faster than Thomas, so that all helps.
Yeah, let's see now who can drive better. The start is all very well, but you've got to be able to drive it down the sled. He is looking very clean down that straight. So now let's see how he gets those 3 oscillations in the Kreisel.
Decent speed for this part of the field, 110.2, 68.5 miles an hour. He's still in 22nd position. This is nervous times, isn't it, for Jack Thomas and for the Canadian coaches. 2 corners to go, still in 22nd. He's not got enough speed in the tank to make it. Kevin Boyer, 22nd at the line. He doesn't overhaul Zheng of China, so he does not make the cut. And I think that is the last realistic hope that anybody had of making the 20. So 19th Ander Mirambel, 20th Jack Thomas. They might start breathing again.
I think I nearly held my breath there for Jack. I've got butterflies in my stomach from nerves, and yet actually the baby's kicking me at the same time. So everything's going on here. Very relieved for Jack, but he did have a good run going on down there, but maybe it's oversteering. You know, he did well to keep it all together.
4th Russian is Igor Veselov. No country gets an allowance of more than 3 athletes in the World Championships or the World Cup, but because the junior world champion gets a free entry no matter what nation he comes from, and he happens to be a Russian, the Russians have a 3rd normal entry in the form of Igor Veselov. World Cup rookie, started in North America early in the season. He's only done 2 or 3 races in the World Cup. Veselov, decent speed, but he needs to find a little bit more at the start. 23 years old, so still really learning the sport.
Yeah, when you're learning, you spend a lot of time watching other people. Big skid there, so he's having to fight the sled. Sometimes you do just want the sled to take a little hit rather than a skid. But these athletes, you're constantly watching each other. So when you're training, there's coaches on the exits and corners, the entrances, videoing, and you'll go home and you'll study every single athlete going through a certain corner to see what you're doing differently and where you want your height and where you want to steer.
Trying to sneak through the Kreisel, just about got away with it. 23rd in the start draw, and at the line he remains in 23rd place. Gap to Kevin Boyer has opened up a little bit. Boyer in 22nd, 2 tenths behind Zheng of China in 21st. And none of these guys will now get a 4th run. Only the fast 20 go down, so that is Veselov's first World Championship campaign completed.
Yeah, that big skid there would not have helped him. That's hugely putting on the brakes. Not that these sleds have brakes, but the way that the runners are cut into a knife, then that going sideways in the wrong angle across the ice will be cutting it, and it is the equivalent of putting brakes on.
Well, gravity's your friend in this sport, friction your enemy. Too much friction there for Igor Veselov. Joe Cecchini for Italy, the 2nd of our Italian sliders. Policeman from Calgary, and not just nominally either, he is a full-time working cop. And the city of Calgary's police department, and competes for Italy as well, did the North American races and has come back now to do the World Championships as their 2nd entry. Teammate Mattia Gaspari had a really good first heat. And with that mistake by Igor Veselov of Russia, Cecchini just 100th behind, sees the door open in front of him.
Yeah, 483, that's matching his push from day one.
Well, he's already, as he lays down, moved ahead of Igor Veselov. So he outstarted the Russian by more than that 100th there was between them. He needs a clean straight and then a good exit out of the Kreisel to move his position up by the end of the run. Ooh, 109.2, not good speed, 67.9 miles an hour, and a big hit nearly throws him off the sled. And that's the danger exiting the Kreisel. Cecchini still 23rd ahead of Igor Veselov. How long will that remain? A big skid uphill, and that is going to drag speed out of the sled as well. At the line, somehow he still gets in front of the Russian, so he will finish no worse than 23rd spot.
Yeah, he started off well, but then obviously became a bit scruffy in that big hit coming out of Kreisel. But he still managed to hold on a spot, moving up one place.
I'm sure he would have preferred to have been in the 20, but wow, look at that.
Yeah, you can see that his sled and body are in total different angles there, lifting the whole way up. But you know what? The good thing is that he kept his shoulders down. And that is the one thing you want to do to be able to maintain contact with the sled.
To stop in London to do more police work on his way here from Canada, and that is his World Championships completed. Final run in the World Championships for another of our rookies. We had 14 rookies in the field who'd never made a World Championship start before. This is Alex Hansen. Family originally from Stavanger in Norway. He now lives in Nova Scotia, Canada. See how brittle the ice is at the start. Lots of ice thrown out of the groove that he was using.
Yeah, just breaking away. They're going to prep this between runs. And I have to now tell you, I do know what this man ate for his dinner last night. Because he was in the curry house on the table next to me.
All right, the only curry house in Berchtesgaden. I can't believe you went for a curry when there's schnitzel in every corner.
TripAdvisor advised me that was the best one. Yes, no, he is a rookie here. He's still learning. He's got a great coach behind him with Schnorri.
Oh, my goodness. Used the Martins Ducour's line, almost unseated him down in the doodles.
Yeah, just the wrong angles at the wrong moment, but he controlled it well and did so well to force himself back onto that sled.
You know, the speed you're going, you have to haul yourself back onto something that's just spat you off. I never understand how that is physically possible. But then they can bench a lot more than I can, so...
Your reactions have to work so fast when something like that happens.
And then it's just self-preservation, I suppose. It's just instinct. Haul yourself back on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we're going to see that again right now. Alex Hansen won't want to watch it. It probably felt pretty uncomfortable.
So here you are. He drops out of the pressure, hits the wall, but just hits that one too hard, which pings him across, up and down, and forcing him off the sled. I mean, that's a bit of the inexperience as well, but you have got no time to react in those funny cambered corners, and he did really well to get back on the sled before the next corner.
Well, pinball there. You just rock it from wall to wall. Martins Ducour's the leaders. We are now 25 sleds into our field, and this is Vladislav Gerashchevich from Ukraine. I'm going to make it the final time. So Vladislav making his World Championship debut as well. He's never slid at the World Cup level, even the Ukrainian youngster. Just 18 years old, a mixed martial arts, a boxer and a strongman competitor whose father is a young friend of Dennis Ducour's, Martin and Thomas Ducour's father, and that's how he ended up going from strongman competitions into trying out for bobsled and skeleton.
Yeah, he's looking good on the sleds here. Some quite good lines. I mean, he hasn't got the same speeds, but he is still controlling the sled really well.
Halfway through his third year on ice, Vladislav Gerashchevich from Ukraine completes his first World Championships. And Amy, you know, think of your first Worlds. It's all just like a bit deer in the headlights, but getting that experience is vital to how you develop, right?
Yeah, it's totally different coming to the World Champs when you haven't ever had a camera stuck in your face at the start, your legs are shaking, there's extra noises, there's people the whole way down the track. You know, people taking photos, leaning over, and they're all massive distractions that you have to try and cope with, along with your own nerves that it's a big World Championships. But you need to put all that to the back of your head and treat it like any other race.
Well, Gerashevich moved up 3 spots. Can Riet Graf do the same? Claims to be 6'3". Dave Krisheshin of Canada and I were measuring ourselves against him. I'm just about 6'6", and he's taller than me, so I think he needs to get measured again. 4.94 getaway, and that's a 10th quicker than we just saw from Gerashevich of Ukraine.
Yeah, you'll notice a lot of different body shapes, different body sizes, height. The sleds have a weight restriction, so there's a minimum and maximum weight sled. And if you've got a minimum weight sled, you can effectively big as heavy as you want.
This is the family sport for the Grafs. His father, Erich, was a bronze medalist in the European Championships in skeleton back in the 90s, and his twin brother, Fadri, also slides. Imagine having twin sons who are 6'6". Their poor mother, she must spend her entire life shopping for food. 26th place on the splits, sneaks in front of Alex Hansen with a slightly less dramatic run down through the lower labyrinth. Alex Hansen, in his defence, may well make the opening titles reel with a dramatic moment. Most of our incidents come from the labyrinth, and he is putting himself in the mix for that. Riet Graf moves up 1 as he completes his World Championship campaign. His first, another one of our 14 rookies. He's got a smile as wide as he is tall, but look at him, he is literally just spaghetti in a helmet,
yeah.
Isn't he?
I have to admit, I've never got my twin sister yet to have a go on a sled. There is time. I think it'd take a lot of persuading.
We've just seen one Swiss. Marco Rohrer is the second of our Swiss athletes in the field, 29 years old. This is his 3rd World Championships, competed in Winterberg 2 years ago and in Eagles last year, where he was 22nd spot. So not having as good a time here at Königssee. In 28th overnight, 100th behind his teammate, and that is the very first battle he'll want to win.
It's funny, most of these athletes, and you are always almost in more of a fight against teammates, because you're fighting for places, you're fighting for funding spots. So if you're on a big team, you actually want to beat your own teammates normally than the other competitors, because you want the spot for the following year. You know, you want to prove where you are on that team. And we're only a year away from the next Olympics, so this is so important to all these athletes.
And of course, as your teammates and Lizzie Arnold's teammates found out, if you can't beat your teammate, you can't win anything. So that is your very first rival and your very last rival as well. And in between times, you want to try and beat the track. Not a bad looking run from Marco Rohrer, moving up a couple of spots at the moment at the line. 23rd place, really good run. So he moves up from 28th, 5 spots. That's more like it. Marco Rohrer gets 1 run in that he might be happy with. That was the 18th fastest trip from the 28th sled down the track.
It was good watching him in those last few corners, how he just tucked his head and kept it so low.
Listen, if you're going to have 2 rotten runs and 1 good one, you want the good one last, don't you?
Indeed, yes. Always want to finish on a good one. He did take a hit there, but he controlled it well, and actually, obviously, still kept his speed and kept so low on the sled in those bottom corners.
A little bit of ABBA. Wonder what nation could be at the line now. Rasmus Ottersen makes his World Cup debut, the World Championship debut. Cheered on by former British slider Dave Swift, who is helping him with a bit of coaching. Swifty also trying to join the Royal Air Force at the moment, so good luck to him with all of that. And Rasmus, a 5:20 start, not quite as quick as he managed on the first day of competition. His target, Alex Hansen, trying to move up a spot.
Good line coming out of there, staying quite calm on the sled, using his feet to steer so he doesn't have to use his shoulders.
Still a relative recent convert to skeleton, only done a couple of seasons. He started 1 World Cup race last year in Whistler. Not sure where his sled was at the time. He had to borrow equipment, borrow clothing from everybody left, right and centre. He actually borrowed a Parker sled from one of the forerunners at the Whistler track to compete. So less than ideal. 25th fastest run, moves ahead of Alex Hansen. Swifty's happy as he puts down his best run of the competition. How much better? On the first day, a 53.3, a 52.9, and he's now come down in a 52.0. So that is a big improvement on the final run. And again, you know, that's going to give him a bit of a feel-good when he goes away from the World Championships.
Yeah, you always want to improve, and it doesn't matter then almost what your position is within the race. If you feel like, for him, you know, he's not within a medal contender, but he is improving dramatically with every single run, and that's what he wants to do.
Holding the sled, Maria Matsalou, who competed for Romania in the women's competition that finished on Saturday, and at the line, her teammate Dorin Velicu. 27th in the first heat, but only 31st fastest in the second. And so can he also move up? He was a 10th behind Rasmus Ottosson. And Ottosson has moved comfortably ahead of Alex Hansen, so there is a chance for Dorin Velicu also to improve on his 30th position overnight.
Yeah, for these athletes, it's just about getting the most amount of ice time on as many tracks as you possibly can. And I think that's why in Great Britain we're so good at learning and becoming good athletes, because we travel around a lot. We don't have our own ice track. So we're forced to have to learn tracks quickly, and we're forced to have to know where to perfect those steers in a really quick amount of time.
29th place on the split time, so he too is moving up ahead of Alex Hansen. And Norwegian slider Hansen's dramatic ping pong through the lower labyrinth is going to cost him places. 27th fastest run, 52.15. And again, that is, what are we looking at? 6,500s quicker than anything he produced on the first day of competition. The weather is colder, the track is harder, and still producing fast times. But that's a big improvement for Dorin Velicu, and he moves up a spot. Dorin Velicu, the 30th of 44 sliders. So we've still got half a World Cup field left to come. And we've already had 30 sleds down. He moves up a spot ahead of Alex Hansen. Here is the field then. The leaders are up in the changing room, staying warm. It's another hour and a bit until they're going to be back on track for the start of the 20 down to 1 run, led by Jack Thomas. So it'll be about 2.5 hours before Martin Stukos needs to think about getting his helmet on. Alexander Auer of Austria outside the top 30 after the first day of competition. He was in 18th place in his first World Championships, which last year in Innsbruck in Austria. His brother Florian was in 17th spot, just in front of him. And Auer really having a very disappointing day one. Didn't get one clean run in. This is looking a lot better down the straightaway, though.
Yeah, he's looking more comfortable with himself as opposed to the first day. You can just see his legs bending there to steer. Takes a bit of a hit.
He's already picked off 2 ahead of Alex Hansen and Dorin Velicu. So can he move up towards 28th place? Rasmus Ottosson, he's 29th on the splits with 2 corners left in the World Championships, and across the line is in 29th. So he moves into the top 30 ahead of Dorin Velicu, who is in 30th place, and Alex Hansen. And the Norwegian drops down to 31st place, having been 25th overnight. Well, not the World Championships that he would have liked, but he can go home to the family and Mr. Boggles, his pet chipmunk.
Yeah, just taking that hit there coming out of Kreisel, but controls it well.
How much is that going to hurt? Because you really hit that wall hard.
Yeah, I think for the guys it hurts more than the girls, because they're bigger, they kind of overlap the sled a bit, so sometimes it's them that hits rather than the sled.
Hiro Takahashi at the line, in the background, veteran coach Katsuhiro Koshi. And Katsuhiro competing himself in skeleton for more than 20 years. Takahashi struggling to repeat the pace of a couple of years ago. The Japanese sliders, best World Championships, 14th place in Winterberg. And here he is, 32nd in Königssee 2 years later. Takahashi, a World Championship bronze medalist, unable to stop the slide in performance from Takahashi. And they need to turn it around. Hiro on his day is capable of top 10 runs. Unfortunately, this weekend, not capable of the top 30. So something somewhere is going badly astray in the Japanese program. Down towards the bottom of the run. He had moved ahead into 31st place, but he's down to 32nd. No, just sneaks ahead of Hansen at the line. Goodness me, a man who's 13th, or was 13th last year, 19th this year in the World Cup rankings. He finished 14th in the World Cup race in a field of 30 3 weeks ago, and here he is, nearly 20 spots lower down. There's only 10 more athletes.
Yeah, so he's not going to be happy with that, especially when you know you've performed better. But we don't really know whether he's just struggled this week with the steering, he's tired, you know, maybe the equipment isn't set up, you know, all these different answers that we don't quite know.
In 3 weeks, we will have our final World Cup race at the brand new track in Pyeongchang, Korea, the venue for the 2018 Winter Olympic Games. There is only one Korean slider here, no bobsledders, just Hansin Lee in the skeleton field. Even the man who won last year's World Cup, Sunbin Young, hasn't come to the World Championships, valuing time on his home track more highly.
Yes, all these athletes are going to be packing their sleds up and are going straight to the airports to get themselves out there to Korea. And, you know, everyone's going to be wanting to learn that track and making notes and saving energy so that they can really get in as much as possible. He's very high there in that Kreisel pressure.
Worked really hard to avoid the wall there, didn't he? He knew what was coming. And that, unfortunately, has taken speed out of the sled. He was trying to close on Norway's Alex Hansen. But Korea's second best skeleton slider a year out of the Games will finish the World Championships no higher than 33rd place. Be very interesting to have seen what Sunbin Young could have done on this track in comparison to the men who are likely to be his rivals.
Yeah, you can see him just looking there to see where he wants to take that little tiny clip with his head quite high.
Well, Lee was 23rd here in the World Cup race, loses a further 10 spots in 3 weeks. Yun was in the silver medal behind Tretyakov. Clearly thinks he's still quick enough and wants more time on home ice. From the Czech Republic, Philip Malta, born and bred in Munich, Germany, and initially competed in bobsled for Germany. Then started skeleton at the age of 7. His father was a German bobsledder. Competed in Youth Olympic Games in 2012 as a brakeman for Richard Olsner, the man who was in last weekend's two-man race as the junior world champion for Germany. So he's done all sorts of different elements of this sport. Philip Malta was injuried out of bobsled and then came back to skeleton for the Czech Republic. He's also incidentally competed for Poland. So a variety of national flags on his uniforms, variety of different sports under his belt as well.
Yeah, you can just hear him having to work really hard there on the ice. You can listen to what the sound of the ice is like. You can hear sometimes the helmets scuffing along or their feet dragging. So all these different things that you're listening to as a coach or as an athlete.
This is third year of skeleton, as a grown-up at least. And a 52.44 slide, and that brought him right up to Hansin Lee. He was 33 hundredths behind Lee after 2 heats, 100th behind Lee after 3. So he all but got by the Korean. And a big smile, as ever, from Philip Malta. Really enjoying his World Challenge. The soles come off his running shoes, so there's another job for the off-season. Well, for a lot of these athletes, this is the final slide of the year. That's definitely the case for AJ Edelman for Israel. Graduate of MIT will head back to his day job right after the weekend finishes here in Königssee. It's a year in which he has crammed in, as ever, as many tracks as possible. Very disappointed with his performance in the first heat, so his stated intention is to come out and really crush it on the final run. Had a 54.18, a 53.88, and the track is capable of giving him a run at least a second quicker than that. Not a bad run onto the straight. Doesn't break into a skid, just a little toe correction to get the line right for the left-hander at Jena.
Yeah, you could just see that we had a lot of height there in the corner going into Kreisel, so he had the wrong angle going in and had to fight quite hard to get through that without hitting.
Now can he close on the sleds in front of him? He was in 35th place overnight, little rub on the wall, not going to help much. Best run of the competition for him was a 53.88, and he comes down in a 52.29, 1.5 seconds quicker. So AJ finally, with a day to think about it, really unlocking what he wanted to do from the start.
Yeah, so he's going to be happy with that. You know, when you suddenly work out a corner, you perfect something that you haven't got all week, that's what you want to be able to do.
Well, maybe he'll go away thinking that he and Königssee could be friends after all.
Yeah, I mean, some tracks I think you never make friends with, but others, you know, you kind of you have an understanding of each other, and he clearly has got a smile on his face, and I'm sure he'd be happy to come back again.
Yeah. With that run under his belt, definitely will be a lot happier with the way things have finished. 35 sleds down. We've still got 9 to go, and this is Anthony Watson from Jamaica. Pulled his hamstring in training. The actor musician plays 5 different instruments, and this is his final day on ice. He will leave, go back to the USA, and he will join the cast of The Lion King on Broadway. A show that has also, incidentally, provided a place on the stage for his Jamaican bobsleds teammate Jasmine Fenlater. Before her bobsledding career, she was on Broadway in The Lion King as well. So AJ had a good run for Israel, but Anthony Watson having a tough time here, bouncing from wall to wall in the labyrinth. Not sure that he and Königssee are going to be the best of friends when he leaves his first World Championships. He's going to have a bruising run to end it. Best run for him was a 4.88, and he comes across the line, I beg your pardon, 53.67. So 53.77, just a little slower off a 4.88 start. So the start, not what he was hoping for when he started training, but with a hamstring tear and first time on this track.
Then yeah, considering all of that, he's just put down, you know, a decent enough slide. Yes, he's not getting those steers correct in the S-bends because he had a lot of height. They're very swooping corners, and he hit there, but I think that actually wasn't quite as bad as day one, so he is slightly, constantly improving.
Well, he has that first big championship experience under his belt, and that is the case too for Dean Timmings, one of a pair of twins. Nick and Dean Timmings from Australia, from Perth in WA. Went to school with Formula One driving teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Haven't yet persuaded him to go headfirst down a mountain. Not sure Red Bull would, I don't know, maybe Red Bull might be quite keen on that. We need to get Daniel Ricciardo onto a skeleton sled. Seeing the Honey Badger on ice would be very good value indeed. 4.91 getaway for Dean. Hasn't started a World Cup race this season. Brother Nick did the last one in Innsbruck. Had to go and pick up the sled from Dean on his way from North America. Dean was in Tokyo.
You could just see it was really calm there, but that sort of slight panic sets in when you know you've got a Kreisel coming up, but he's controlled that well.
Trying to maintain his form, trying to let the sled find its own way down, which ideally is what you want to do with just a little nudge. He's going to creep in front of Anthony Watson. Yes, he does. He picks off the Jamaican. So he moves into 36th position with a 53.50. Again, his fastest slide. Track is definitely holding up a lot better for the later athletes than it did on the first day of competition.
Yeah, I think our external weather is definitely staying the same more. We haven't got quite as much variety and variations of weather that we've had in the past.
It's a bit warm and damp and slushy for the start of the men's skeleton competition. It's glassy, hard ice and very quick. And that's what you've got to react to immediately. From the moment you lie down, it's totally different from how it was in training and in the first air competition. And another rookie, another newcomer to the World Championship, Brendan Doyle from Ireland. Been a long while since we saw Patrick Shannon sliding for Ireland. Brendan Doyle, former policeman from Dublin, also a representative for Irish mental health charities, and using sport as a way of bringing himself back. 4.80. Good start from him, his fastest the competition, but he breaks into a long slide on the straight.
Yeah, he didn't allow the sled then to go and take the hit, which is what you need to do. So then you're fighting it, and then the sled skidding underneath you. So he just managed to save himself, hitting too hard there out of the Kreisel.
Looking to try and move ahead of Anthony Watson, 38th spot at the moment. No, he's just got a good exit from the labyrinth, up a couple of spots, and at the line, yes he does, overhauls Dean Timmins and Anthony Watson. So they'll be rabbit punching him in the arm down the bottom by way of congratulations. Rat bag, you just overhauled both of us. And a great spirit between a lot of these young sliders. It's the first time we've seen them on TV, first time in the World Championship, but they travel with each other around the junior circuit. So they know each other really well.
Yeah, you get some great relationships going, and I've still got, you know, some of my best friendships now, and everyone who's watching today, I think Ant Sawyer, and he's watching an ex-skeleton slider. You've got all the Aussies out there watching, the Germans. You know, they're all your closest friends all around the world that will remain your friends, I think, your whole entire life. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Chinese Taipei. Zhang Chunhung from Chinese Taipei, another real youngster making his World Championship debut.
Very small and neat on the sled there, even if he didn't have quite the cleanest of pushes, but look how much he's just tucked in. So the thing is, he's got the basic things really good here. The first thing you learn when you start skeleton is to have that good form on the sled and never let it break. Just obviously having to try and fight his steers there and skidding.
19 on February the 9th, one of the youngest athletes in the field. And only in his second season of sliding. Well, good speed, considering the bend away. Now, is he going to move up a spot? Was in 39th place after the first air competition. And he comes down. Time across the line is a 53.88. And that is half a second quicker than his best run so far. So again, showing just how quick the track is, how different the track is. And for a youngster here who's not got experience of the track, the way that it's changed totally, it suddenly makes it impossible to rely on what you knew before.
It's very hard to then be consistent. If the weather's changing, the speed of the track is changing because of the ice conditions and the weather, it is very hard to be consistent. But then you're learning all the time, and the whole point is that you're trying to feel what the track is doing. You've got the steers in your head, but then you have to observe what's happening and use your surroundings, your peripheral vision, etc., to know what to do in each corner.
This is Poland's Michał Jakobczyk. Now, he could be a very big name in the last couple of years. 11th fastest in the world at the first heat. Look at that, 4th fastest. He was 5th fastest in the second. A 4.69. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, an incredible start there. So that's one thing that we know he's very, very good at. And so this guy here just needs to learn how to steer and get the knowledge and experience on the track. Just using his toes there. Only
our 3 medalists have started faster than him, Chechikov, Tregibov and Dukurs. Now, if he learns to slide, oh my goodness, have Poland got a real prospect on their hands.
Yes, I mean, if you can teach an athlete who's already incredibly fast to then slide, then you're already, one step ahead. But it does take years to learn how to slide. You need to have good equipment, good coaches, and a lot of ice time. And obviously all of that just takes money as well, and it comes down to funding.
Well, here's his progress. 11th fastest start, 5th fastest start, 4th fastest start. He did a 54.7, a 54.8, and now a 53.6. So over a second quicker than anything he's done.
Yeah, let's watch his start here. Very powerful, getting onto that sled in a really low position. So yeah, let's just hope that he can actually learn to do the steers. Like there, he cut off the end of the corner, but he hasn't got the experience then of knowing. So yeah.
No kidding, Mikkel, what a starter. What a way to end his World Championships. Now the opposite end of the age scale is another of our rookies. First World Championship start for Luxembourg. US born and bred Jeff Bauer, 43 years old. And the Luxembourg connection, his dad moved to Luxembourg when he was a child. He played in their junior basketball team, and when he lived in Salt Lake City as an adult, discovered skeleton, and then decided that he would start representing Luxembourg. He's founded the Luxembourg Skeleton and Bobsleigh Federation. He's recruiting new athletes, and he is their torchbearer, literally, in the sport.
Just having to fight with his sled there. Whether that's actually his runner set up isn't quite right, or he's moved his position on the sled. You have a perfect balance point when you're on your sled that you set up beforehand. You can just hear him having to work quite hard cutting the ice.
Well, first major race for him. He's never competed in the World Cup. He's only been to Königssee once before, as far as I'm aware. So from North America, if we were in Lake Placid, he'd probably have a much better time of it. A 54.25 in 41st place, but again, that's 3/4 of a second better than his previous best. So another big improvement from Jeff Bauer. And you can't overstate how much. If you imagine a racing car raced in the rain on Friday and it's dry on Sunday and you don't know the track, that's how different it is today.
Yeah, exactly. You're not quite sure how different corners react. And here you can see maybe he hasn't got his setup right because he is fighting a lot. He's taking those hits, skidding, not being able to control it. But you know what? If you're a bit more nervous, you've got a bit more tension in your body, also you're not as relaxed. And then you and your sled fight separately and you're not sinking as one.
Marin Bangev representing Bulgaria. Wife Camilla is here as well with their brand new baby, just 4 months old. She took a couple of training runs earlier in the week, was intending to compete, but it hasn't really worked out. 5:29 getaway, had a 5:24 in his second heat. Now we've seen a lot of the sliders in this lower part of the order who had really soft ice to deal with, find big improvements. How can he dial himself in? Well, he gets a good exit out of S4.
Yeah, you can see he's quite keen to look to see where he's going with his head there.
He and his wife run a pub, restaurant, hotel in La Plana where they first met many years ago. So they don't get out on ice as much as they would like to. Head is up now, down through Ecovant. And again, looking for the line for the final couple of corners. Is he going to catch Jeff Bauer of Luxembourg? Not quite at the line, a 54.21. And that is the best slide for him by, again, 0.6 of a second, 0.68 faster. So Marian finishes the World Championships with a best slide of the trio, 54.21.
See his legs coming out there and his elbows sticking out, which is a typical thing to do when you're learning. You're not quite aware of what your body's doing quite as much.
2 sleds to go. This is Slovenia's Denis Lorencic. Denis in his 3rd season of sliding. And I said, what are you doing after the season? He said, well, this is my last run, no more ice for me, I'm off to Mexico. He's a construction engineer, he's going to Mexico for several months to work on a major program there. So the Slovenian will go from, I don't know, 0 degrees or so to a very different climate before the end of the month. In this part of the field, you know, these guys are not full-time athletes, they're not funded by their nations, so they do have proper grown-up real-world jobs that they've got to try and combine. He's managed to delay the start of his involvement in this big building program so he can do the World Championships.
A little bit hairy there. I can see he was struggling going in there, fighting with his leg, because I think he's skidding around quite a lot, and so he had a really high second oscillation there, but saved himself, I think, from just flipping over.
Well, at that stage, you know, when you get into that situation, you know it's all going wrong. It is human self-preservation instinct that catches up with you and overrides your desire to maintain good form. Slovenian flag flying for him there in the background. I wonder if that's a relative. I know Bogo in the truck, our replay editor, will be proudly wearing his Slovenian skeleton t-shirt. Thank you. And Denis Orencic knows the way it's done, brought Strudel to the TV truck.
Yeah, you can see him there just being lifted up off his sled as he's looking to see what's going to happen next.
Well, hopefully by the time he gets to the beaches of Mexico on his first weekend off, that bruise will have gone, but he'll be black and blue after that. Good job, Denis. Another season completed for him. And the first time that we've had Ghana represented in ice sliding, courtesy of a Kwasi Frimpong, another man who's just starting out learning this skeleton business. But boy, what a live wire he is. So up for this, you can't believe. He's a really good sprinter. I mean, you just see the definition in the legs. 4.90. He's still got to learn how to do it bent double. And Amy Williams, it's not even like pushing a wheelbarrow. It's like running along with your palm on the ground almost.
Yeah, it's like your 100-meter sprinter from the start blocks, but they never get to stand up. And you're pushing a sled that can weigh for the men up to 40, 45 kilograms. So it's very unique. We have different kinds of spikes. So it's like a brush spike, hundreds of tiny little spikes on the bottom of the shoes so that we don't slip. See how he comes out of here. Takes a big hit, but he controls it really well.
But hopefully his wife is watching back home in the US, where they live and work running their business. She's expecting their first baby in a month or so right around the same time that Olympic champion Amy Williams beside me will be hopefully bringing her new arrival into the world. And Kwasi across the line completes his final run, 55.65. Well, his second heat was actually a little quicker and tidier, but again, first time here in Königssee, and the ice so utterly different from the first day of sliding. No wonder he didn't have the experience to anticipate where the steers needed to be a little earlier. But Kwasi, my friend, we are going to miss you after this World Championships and look forward to seeing you hopefully again next season. So good luck to him and to everybody else who completes their season here. And look at that, what a hit.
Yeah, but you know what? That is still an improvement on the first day of sliding. He actually came out there worse. So he is constantly improving. And look at him, he's just a ray of sunshine anyway to this sport.
Love you, baby girl, in April. Yeah. Can't wait to see you.
Oh, there's a little shout out.
Yeah. Well, we always say about the young athletes, mum and dad, Bank of Mum and Dad, the greatest sponsors. And it's his wife that keeps him going. Our World Championship leader with one heat to go is Martin Stucos. The lead was 3/4 of a second overnight. It came down in the second day of competition to just over 6/10. Can he hold on, or is there drama in store? Stucos going for a third straight, a fifth career World Championship gold medal. Well, here are the standings then, and at the top of the table, Martin Stucos 6/10 ahead Nikita Tregibov, Alexander Trechikov in third, Axel Jung up to fourth ahead of Alexander Gassner, and we have got one run remaining in the World Championships. Don't miss the action. The athletes will be back on track at 10:30 local, that's 09:30 Greenwich Mean Time. I have no idea what time it is in Mexico, but you can work that out for yourselves, and in Australia and everywhere else you're watching us. Amy Williams will be back alongside me in just over 30 minutes to go 20 down to 1. There is your classified finishing order after the third heat. From the 21st down to the 44th athlete, they will join us trackside. You do too, please, for the final denouement of the Men's Skeleton World Championships.